Let me tell you something that will make you uncomfortable, but every younger man instinctively feels. The moment you start acting your age instead of your energy, it's game over. And the devastating part, most women don't even realize they're aging themselves out of his mind until he's already emotionally checked out and moved on to someone who makes him feel alive. You see, when a younger man is drawn to an older woman, it's never about the number on your birth certificate. It's about the fire in your spirit, the confidence in your stride, the way you command a room without apologizing for taking up space. It's about an energy that says, I know exactly who I am, and I don't need anyone's permission to be her. But the second you start shrinking into societal expectations, playing it safe, or worse, mothering him, that magnetic pull disappears faster than you can explain it away. Here's what no one wants to admit. Age gap attraction operates on completely different rules than same-age relationships. The psychology is more complex, the stakes are higher, and the mistakes are far less forgiving. One wrong move, one moment where you slip into older woman patterns instead of maintaining your authentic power, and suddenly you're not the captivating woman he couldn't resist. You're just another reminder of what he's trying to avoid growing into. That's why in this video, I'm exposing the 4 silent ways women kill their attraction with younger men, even when their intentions are pure. Because this isn't about age, this is about energy. And once you understand what drains it, you'll never make these mistakes again. Before we dive into the mistakes that destroy your value, you need to understand what creates it in the first place. Because younger man attraction isn't random, and it's not just about physical appearance or sexual adventure. There's a deeper psychological mechanism at work, one that most people completely misunderstand. When a younger man is genuinely drawn to an older woman, he's responding to something that women his age haven't developed yet. Presence, self-assurance, emotional stability, the kind of confidence that only comes from living through real experiences and coming out stronger. He's not looking for someone to take care of him or guide him through life. He's looking for someone who's so secure in her own world that she doesn't need him to complete her story. Here's what most people miss about age gap dynamics. The attraction isn't based on traditional relationship models. It's based on polarity, but a different kind of polarity than you'd find in same-age couples. With younger men, the magnetic pull comes from your ability to be simultaneously mature and playful, experienced yet spontaneous, grounded but not heavy. Younger men are naturally drawn to energy that feels free from the weight of expectation. They're attracted to women who haven't let life make them bitter, cautious, or emotionally closed off. They want someone who's learned life's lessons but hasn't let those lessons steal her sense of adventure. That's the sweet spot. That's the energy that creates lasting attraction across age gaps. But here's where it gets complicated. Society has programmed us to believe that older women in relationships with younger men must either be sugar mamas, desperate cougars, or trying to recapture their youth. None of that is true. The women who successfully attract and keep younger men aren't trying to be young, they're trying to be alive. There's a massive difference. The moment you start performing youth instead of embodying vitality, everything shifts. Youth is about age. Vitality is about energy. Youth is temporary. Vitality is renewable. Youth makes you desperate to hold on to something that's already gone. Vitality makes you magnetic because you're not chasing anything. You're simply being. When a younger man feels that authentic vitality in your presence, something primitive in him responds. It's not daddy issues or mommy complexes. It's the recognition of a woman who's figured out how to live fully, love deeply, and maintain her sense of self without compromise. That kind of woman doesn't just attract younger men. She attracts quality men of any age because she represents something most people never achieve: complete alignment with who she is. The problem starts when women begin to doubt that energy, when they start questioning whether they're too old for this dynamic, whether they should act more mature, or whether they need to prove their worth through traditional older woman roles. The second that self-doubt creeps in, the magnetic field that drew him in the first place begins to weaken. Because younger men can sense insecurity from a mile away. They can feel when you're trying too hard to be something you're not, whether that's trying to be younger than you are or older than you feel. They're drawn to authenticity above all else. And authenticity at any age is about owning exactly where you are without apology or performance. So when we talk about what kills your value with younger men, we're really talking about what kills that authentic energy. We're talking about the moments when you abandon yourself to fit into someone else's idea of what this dynamic should look like. And once you understand that, you'll see why the 4 things I'm about to share with you are so devastating, and more importantly, how to avoid the M completely. This is the fastest way to kill any romantic or sexual tension with a younger man. And unfortunately, it's the most common mistake older women make. The moment you slip into maternal energy with him, you've crossed a line that's almost impossible to uncross. And the scary part, most women don't even realize they're doing it until it's already too late. It usually starts innocently enough. He mentions he's tired, and you immediately start suggesting he get more sleep, eat better, or manage his stress differently. He talks about a problem at work, and instead of listening, you jump into fix-it mode, offering advice, solutions, or worse, taking care of the problem for him. He's running late, and you start managing his schedule, reminding him about appointments, or organizing his life in ways he never asked for. You convince yourself you're just being caring, supportive, nurturing. But here's what's really happening. You're shifting from feminine energy into masculine energy, from being his woman into being his mother. And once that shift happens, the romantic dynamic dies immediately because you've activated the wrong psychological response in him. When you mother a younger man, you're essentially telling him, I see you as someone who needs to be taken care of, guided, or managed. And while he might appreciate the care on a surface level, something deeper in him rejects it completely. Because men, especially younger men, don't want to be romantically involved with someone who reminds them of their actual mother. They want to be with someone who sees them as a capable, desirable man, not a project to be improved. The maternal instinct gets triggered because of the age gap. You look at him and think, he's so young, he probably doesn't know how to take care of himself. Or worse, you think your life experience gives you the right to guide his choices. But that's exactly the energy that repels him. Because when you act like his mother, you're positioning yourself as someone who's above him, someone who knows better, someone who's there to teach rather than to connect. Here's the truth that no one talks about. Younger men are attracted to older women precisely because they want to feel like men in the relationship, not like boys being raised. They want someone who's confident enough in her own life that she doesn't need to manage his. They're drawn to your self-assurance, not your caretaking abilities. The moment you start mothering him, you kill the polarity that created the attraction in the first place. Polarity requires 2 people to be in their respective energies. When you shift into maternal mode, you're not in your feminine anymore. You're in caretaker mode, which is neither masculine nor feminine. It's just parental. And there's nothing less attractive to a younger man than feeling like he's dating his mother. Even worse, mothering behavior often comes from a place of insecurity about the age gap. Deep down, you might be thinking, what value do I bring to this relationship? What can I offer him that someone younger can't? And you default to mothering because it feels like something unique you can provide. But that's backwards thinking. The value you bring isn't in what you can do for him. It's in who you are when you're with him. The women who successfully maintain attraction with younger men never try to mother them. Instead, they maintain their feminine energy while bringing the confidence that comes with experience. They don't fix his problems. They trust him to handle his own life. They don't give unsolicited advice. They listen, support, and believe in his capability. They don't manage his choices. They focus on managing their own energy and presence. When you resist the urge to mother him, something beautiful happens. He starts to step up naturally. He starts to take better care of himself, not because you told him to, but because he wants to be worthy of a woman who believes in his strength. He starts to handle his responsibilities better, not because you manage them for him, but because he wants to show up as the man in the relationship. The shift is simple but profound. Instead of asking, how can I help him? Start asking, how can I stay in my feminine power while supporting his masculine growth? Instead of trying to solve his problems, trust that he's capable of finding his own solutions. Instead of giving advice, offer perspective when asked, but always from a place of respect for his autonomy. Remember, you're not his mother, his mentor, or his life coach. You're his woman. And the moment you remember that, the moment you stop trying to raise him and start allowing him to rise to meet you, that's when the attraction not only returns, but deepens into something genuinely powerful and lasting. This one cuts deep because it's rooted in shame that society has programmed into women about their achievements, especially when dating younger men. You've worked hard, built a career, accumulated wealth, gained wisdom, and created a life you're proud of. But the moment you're with a younger man, you start diminishing your accomplishments, apologizing for your success, or worse, hiding the very things that make you extraordinary. It sounds like this: I'm sorry, I know I'm being too intense about work. Or, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, or, you probably think I'm too ambitious for my own good. You start making yourself smaller, dimming your light, pretending to be less than you are because you're afraid your success will intimidate him or make him feel inadequate. Here's the brutal truth. The moment you apologize for being successful, accomplished, or experienced, you're not just killing your value in his eyes, you're killing it in your own. Because what you're really saying is, I'm ashamed of who I've become. I'm sorry for being impressive. I'll pretend to be less so you can feel like more. And younger men, they can smell that insecurity from across the room. They can sense when you're not owning your power, when you're shrinking to make space for their ego, when you're apologizing for the very things that should make you magnetic. And instead of making them more comfortable, it makes them lose respect for you immediately. Because here's what you need to understand about younger men who are genuinely attracted to older women. They're not looking for someone who makes them feel bigger by being smaller. They're looking for someone who inspires them to become bigger themselves. They're drawn to your confidence, your achievements, your knowledge, your success. These aren't things to apologize for. These are your superpowers. When you dim your light to make him feel brighter, you're essentially saying, I don't trust you to handle being with someone impressive. You're infantilizing him, assuming he can't rise to meet your level. And that assumption is insulting to him and devastating to you, because the kind of younger man worth your time doesn't want you to be less. He wants to learn how to be more. The apologizing usually comes from deep-rooted conditioning that tells women their success is threatening to men, that they need to choose between being accomplished and being lovable. But that's old programming that has nothing to do with the reality of confident, secure men, regardless of their age. The right younger man isn't intimidated by your success. He's turned on by it. He's inspired by it. He wants to be part of a woman's world who's figured out how to win at life. Think about it logically. If he was intimidated by successful, accomplished women, why would he be drawn to someone older in the first place? He could easily date someone his age with less experience, fewer achievements, and less complexity, but he didn't choose that. He chose you, which means your success, your experience, and your accomplishments are part of the attraction, not obstacles to overcome. When you own your achievements without apology, something shifts in the dynamic. You're not trying to convince him you're worthy. You know you're worthy. You're not trying to make him feel comfortable with your success. You assume he's confident enough to handle being with someone extraordinary. And that assumption, that energy, that quiet confidence in your own value, that's what creates the kind of attraction that lasts. The shift is about moving from apologetic energy to appreciative energy. Instead of saying, sorry, I'm so focused on work, try, I love that I get to share my passion with you, instead of, I don't want to intimidate you with my success. Try, I'm grateful for everything I've built and I love having someone to enjoy it with. You're not bragging. You're not being arrogant. You're being authentic about your life. And if a younger man can't handle your authenticity, if your success threatens him, if your accomplishments make him uncomfortable, then he's not the right younger man for you, because the right one will see your achievements as proof of your character, your drive, and your capability. He'll see them as reasons to feel proud to be with you, not reasons to feel insecure about himself. Stop apologizing for being amazing. Stop dimming your light to make someone else feel brighter. Stop shrinking your success to fit someone else's ego. Own what you've built, celebrate what you've achieved, and trust that the right younger man will be inspired by your greatness, not intimidated by it. Because a woman who owns her power without apology, that's not threatening, that's magnetic. This is perhaps the most exhausting mistake women make with younger men, and it comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what creates lasting attraction. You look at his energy, his social life, his interests, and instead of staying grounded in who you are, you start trying to match his pace. You say yes to every invitation, force yourself into scenes that don't align with your values, and exhaust yourself trying to prove you can keep up with someone who's in a completely different life stage. It usually starts with good intentions. He invites you to a party full of people his age, and instead of politely declining if it's not your scene, you go and spend the entire night feeling out of place, trying too hard to fit in, or worse, pretending to enjoy something that drains your energy. He suggests activities that you have no interest in, and instead of being honest about your preferences, you agree and then resent the experience. You convince yourself that if you don't keep up with his lifestyle, you'll lose him to someone younger who can. But here's what's actually happening. By trying to keep up, instead of setting your own pace, you're abandoning the very thing that attracted him to you in the first place. Your groundedness, your self-assurance, and your ability to know what you want and stick to it. When you try to keep up with a younger man's lifestyle, you're operating from scarcity, not abundance. You're saying, I need to prove I belong in your world, instead of I'm inviting you into mine. And that energy shift changes everything, because suddenly you're the one chasing, adapting, and compromising your authentic self to maintain his interest. Here's what no one tells you about younger men who are serious about older women. They're not looking for someone who can keep up with their every move. They're looking for someone who's so confident in her own rhythm that she doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. They're attracted to your stability, not your ability to party until 3 a.m. They're drawn to your wisdom about what's worth your time and energy, not your willingness to say yes to everything. The most magnetic older women don't try to compete with younger women on their terms. They don't try to out-party, out-drink, or out-energy women half their age. Instead, they create such a compelling world of their own that younger men want to step into their pace, not drag them into theirs. Think about it from his perspective. If he wanted someone who would say yes to everything, never challenge his choices, and always be available for whatever he wanted to do, he could easily find that in someone his own age. But he didn't choose that. He chose someone with more life experience, which means he's looking for someone with better boundaries, clearer preferences, and the confidence to say no when something doesn't align with who she is. When you try to keep up instead of setting the pace, you're not just exhausting yourself physically and emotionally, you're also sending the message that you don't trust your own judgment, that you don't value your own time, and that you'll abandon your standards to keep someone interested. And that's the opposite of the confident, self-assured energy that created the attraction in the first place. If you've made it this far, I want you to understand something profound. Everything I've shared with you isn't about changing who you are to attract younger men. It's about returning to who you've always been when you're at your most magnetic, regardless of who you're with. The woman who attracts and keeps genuine younger men isn't performing youth or apologizing for maturity. She's not exhausting herself trying to keep up or making age the centerpiece of every conversation. She's simply being so authentically, powerfully herself that age becomes irrelevant to the connection she creates. You don't need to compete with younger women on their terms because you're playing an entirely different game. You're not offering what they offer. And that's exactly the point. Your value doesn't come from your ability to be younger. It comes from your ability to be more present, more confident, more grounded, and more aware of your own worth. The 4 mistakes we've covered today: mothering instead of partnering, apologizing for your success, trying to keep up instead of setting the pace, and focusing on age instead of connection, they all stem from the same root: forgetting that you're already enough exactly as you are. You are that woman. You always have been. And the moment you stop apologizing for it, diminishing it, or disguising it, that's the moment you become absolutely irresistible to the kind of younger man who deserves to be in your presence. So stop trying to be someone you're not for someone who isn't even sure who he is yet. Start being exactly who you are for the man who's been waiting his whole life to meet a woman like you. That's where your real power lives. And once you claim it, age becomes just a number and attraction becomes timeless.